Welcome back. Tonight, we are going to go over Google's Notebook LM. But first, a little bit about my background. My name is Stan Jesionowski, and I spent 30 years in corporate America developing systems just like this. And so, what I'd like to do is bring some of that knowledge to the forefront and teach you guys what I've learned over those 30 years and utilize products like Notebook LM and show you how to do things a little bit differently. So, tonight, we're going to go over a Notebook LM course that I created based on a YouTube transcript and that I converted into a Notebook LM. We're going to go over everything from an interactive podcast and all the way through a nice slide deck that I built with infographics. So let's get started. So the first thing you're going to do is create your new notebook right here with the create notebook button, and then you're going to name it. This instance that I created was the ultimate vibe coding survival guide. And what I had done was I put several sources over here. And how you do that is you click the add sources button, which is right over here. And you click that and you just upload your files. You put in your YouTube links, you add it from Google Drive, or you just put in text. Okay. And so for this example, what I did was I shot a YouTube video. I linked it back, right? I took the transcript that I had created for that YouTube video. I copied that in here. And then I went into Nano Banana, right? And I built the beginnings of my infographics, what I wanted the end slide to look like. So here is an example of that, right? And basically the premise of this YouTube video that I shot was, everything's great when you're vibe coding as long as you protect your backups, your snapshots, and your version control. The video, by the way, was a big flop. I loved it. My other videos do great. Hopefully this one does better than that one, but no one cared about backups and version control. So now let's go back and look at the other infographic that I did. This is what it looks like when you have no backups, right? Now you're sitting in a world of hurt. You've got a volcano back here, but I just did these in Nano Banana, right? And so the premise is the reason that you want a starting point for your infographics is because by the time you get to your slide deck, right, you want it to go back to the infographics, right, and have some sort of ideas of the style that you're looking for and the images you want to use. So that's why I always use the infographics in Nano Banana. And so some of the other things that I do is I create an infographic on a more detailed technical specification that I wanted to cover. And what this was I wrote about an example of an ERD, right? It's very detailed. It tells it exactly how to build an ERD, which stands for Entity Relationship Diagram. It's very technical, but the cool part about this is Google Notebook LM can take something like this, a technical document, and make it a beautiful slide out of it, right? It can take this technical concept over here, right? And by the way, I had Gemini help me with this technical concept, right? So, and then it can convert it into part of your slide deck. So the sources on this one, I'm on the Google Workspace, the $17 plan. And with this one, I can put up to 300 sources in there, right? Some of the other features that you get with this is I can do analytics. So if I'm sharing this with my team, I can see how much they're using this, right? I can share this with my team. Now, I don't see where you can share this outside your team. You can share it with other people that have Google Notebook LM. I haven't seen where you can share it to non-Google Notebook LM users. Settings here, you can change it to dark mode, light mode. Currently, I'm in light mode. But if you can't share it, a lot of these features have like slide decks. You can export it as a PDF, and we'll show you that. Now, in the middle here, you have your chat, where you're actually just prompting it back and forth, right? Now let's get over here into the meat and potatoes and go over some of these. I've taken the liberty to go ahead and already create these 9 studio objects for you. But what we're going to do is we're going to start inside the audio overview, which is a podcast, right? But they've got a cool new feature in it. And it makes it interactive. So let's take a listen here.
You know the vibe.
Oh, wait, someone wants to join. Hey, go for it.
Hi, what makes Stan Jesionowski an expert?
That is a great question.
It's a really important distinction, too.
Because Stan Jesionowski, who wrote this guide, he's not just some random commentator.
No, he's got over 30 years in IT experience
He started way back in 1983.
on a VIC-20, which is wild.
Right, he was literally coding games from a magazine because his family couldn't afford an Atari.
So he started from the ground up right there.
Exactly.
Well, there you go. So it's pretty cool, interactive. The way I see this growing is imagine this in the future where you're taking the sources of what everybody on your team did, right? And then you put all those out there. You build a podcast or something interactive like this with instructions on, hey, let's keep everybody up to date. And come Friday, on the drive home, you throw the podcast on your phone and you can listen to it and actually get an update on the entire team's progress towards the completion of the project, right? Or your goals, right? This is right now just in, inning one of the 9 inning game that we're going to be entering here. So I want to show this to you too. This edit button, this is critical when you build these, right? So what this does is it brings up this prompt here and you can choose a deep dive. I can do a brief. I can do critique, a debate. But most important part, what should the AI host focus on this episode? This prompt here, every one of these with the pencil, you can edit, and I highly recommend it. This is where you get all your details, right? I want to focus on not Stan Jesionowski so much, but what I want to focus on is the backups, the snapshots, and the version control. That's what the transcript's about, right? So then it focuses the conversation more about the version control, the backups, the snapshots. And so you kind of give it some direction. This is really, really important on the slide deck, let me tell you. And you're going to build some beautiful slides with, Notebook LM, right? And so right there is the most critical piece to me about Notebook LM is the pencil. It's the edit. Okay, so now let's go through some of these other studio options that we have. So right there, now we got the mind map. Okay, so what mind map is it gives you an overall view of what all the objects are that Stan is discussing, right? Here it is. It goes into my transcript and it builds out this 5 phases that I talk about in my transcript and it shows them to you. And if I want to expand them all, I just go like this and voila, they're all expanded for you to see. And right here, I talk about the vibe engine, right? I talk about the brains behind all of my vibe coding, right? That I have the Claude Opus 4.6, which I vibe code with all the time, but I prompt with Google Gemini. I build my prompts that get developed and dropped into Opus 4.6, but then I do all my UI development in Google Stitch, right? So let's go back, and right there is a nice layout of what we're talking about over here in transcript.txt, right? So mind map is nothing more than a nice visual of what you're looking at. Flashcards, here we go. This is for your studious, either child or actually other employees that want to learn a topic, right? It's going to give you some flashcards. All this does is we'll go down here to some flashcards that I built, right? This does coding flashcards, right? So I look over in phase 1, what is the purpose of onboarding workflow standard operating procedures, right? And there's your answer. And if you got it or not, that's all you got to do is click right there. And we've got right now, it says we're on card 4 of 59. This makes great study guides. So if you're preparing for your bar exam or whatever you got, right, there you go. Make your flashcards. Your infographic. What this is if you want to build an infographic, this is nice to start here and utilize it for your slide deck, right? So what we did here, I showed an example of survival guide infographic, right? Here we go. And there it is. It just built a nice cartoonish picture of everything from data loss over here. This is bad, right? You got, this is called the bouncer. This is where you log in, right? Your authentication. And you got over here, you got just a nice little island and secure. You got some buried treasure over here and you got some backups and snapshots, right? It's a nice visual aid. So a lot of times what I'll do though, is I go into Nana Banana and I build my infographics over there that I base my slide deck on. So I think that's very important to take a note on is Nano Banana is great for infographics. I think it's better than this right now. So, but I'm sure they're going to get better on the infographics. Now, the data tables, this is another nice visual. So for this one, it laid it out into table format for us, right? So you can see here, it's got its Basecamp. It's got it stored by categories, right? Here's your identity, right? You're establishing authentication and some, they always call it the bouncer, right? He's the guy at the front door that says, should you be able to log on to the system or not, right? That's what Basecamp's all about, right? Your identity category. And then it's got a nice table here. Here's the Vibe engine, right? What are we doing this with? Cloud Code Opus 4.6, right? So that's a nice visual, gives you a lot of nice tables. And then we've got the video conversation. So this is kind of similar to the podcast thing, right? So let's go here. And it's another audio, right? So here,
that feeling of vibe coding, right? It's that absolute.
Let's listen to.
But today we're really going to zero in on the 3 most critical.
So this is more of one person kind of just talking to you, and it's a shorter deep dive from what I've seen on this. It's very similar. It doesn't have the interactive feature, but it's a nice little video for you. And then what we've got are your reports. And this is really cool because how I use these is you can build your standard operating procedures on this. And all standard operating procedures is kind of like a knowledge base of your work, right? And so for this example, I built standard operating procedures for our, right here, for our database backups and snapshots. This is great because over my 30 years, I got audited every year. And we always had to have SOPs. We'd always have to show the auditors SOPs. And so right here, this makes your SOPs for you. Right here, it talks about the backup procedures. We had our 3-2-1 method, 3 copies of the data, 2 different media types, and 1 offsite location, right? So when the auditors come, you just open up your binder, you slide it over to them, and you're like, here you go. And you're going to pass with flying colors because they're going to be like, well, he took the effort on this one. But it's great. It does all your SOPs for you. And now we got back to more study guide material here. We got a quiz, right? So here we've got a quiz, and right here, it's going to ask you some questions. It's usually 10 questions on what you've done, right? So here we got the first one right. That asked about the bouncer, right? According to phase 2, the time machine. This is talking about GitHub and version control, right? And then you just put your answer here. And GitHub manages versioning for coding, while snapshots, there's your answer, works on the actual database records, right? And so that is creating your own quiz. And usually that's about 10 questions. Now, here is my favorite part of NotebookLM, and it's the slide deck. I think this is awesome. I think it's one of the most underrated tools by Google. So what I'd recommend is make sure you click that pencil and have a document inside your sources and be very specific in that document. A lot of times, if I just want to use this for PowerPoint, what I'll have is a detailed document that I build in Gemini, and I'll kind of talk about the 6 slides. And then I drop in a couple infographics that I built in Nano Banana. And what it does is it creates these wonderful slideshows for me. And let me show you how that works. So what you'll do is you'll come over here to slide deck, right? And I've already built these, right? And here you go, right? And let's go ahead and play this slide and show you what we've got here. So this is a great PowerPoint slide presentation or Google slide where we talk about, the volcano versus the island, right? It's all fun and games until you lose data, right? Which is true, right? Nothing worse than waking up on a Saturday, having someone call you and telling you the database is down. But it's even worse on a Saturday if you can't restore it. So we talk about in this demonstration, the vibe coding is great, but in reality, you got to know how to do version control as well as snapshots. And so, but if you click through here, this is great. I'm going to have you take a note of this red X. We're going to talk about this in a second. And we go through, and what I did was I gave it a very detailed document. And he's like, hey, I want to talk about phase 1, right? Basecamp, identity and professionalism, right? The importance of a .com. This is a cool one, I think. Phase 2, the time machine, right? Backing up your code using GitHub, right? By the way, I have no clue why this thing failed. I mean, I think it's great when I'm talking about my GitHub, but when I talk to my wife at dinner about GitHub, her eyes just glaze and roll over. So I know it's not too popular of a topic, but this slide's cool looking, right? Got the little GitHub logo here, a little treasure chest. And then you go to phase 3, but this looks great, right? And then you get the vault, everything's protected on the back end. We talked about multi-tenancy in this video. That's how you build SaaS products, right? Now, this is one of the coolest things I think it built, right? And when I was at Purdue University, we had to learn all about ERDs. And I think this thing is a lost art. This is how you build your databases and your tables. Well, this built this wonderful example for me, all off of a document that I provided it, right? I went into that document and I explained, I want to talk about these examples specifically, right? And how you would build a application for a college or a university that tracks students, professors, and their grades, right? And classes that they can attend. So I think it did a great job on this, right? And here we go, an interactive funnel here. And then we've got another phase 5, right? Some more great graphics. But what I want to get to is, this is great, but I had a problem with it. What happened was in that slide, you'll remember that little red X. And what you can do with these is you can export these to a PDF. One thing I don't like about NotebookLM is I can't edit this, right? So once you got your slide deck, it's kind of like just a roll of the dice, right? You're just like, here's your slide deck, can't edit it. So what you got to do is think outside the box, and you got to go into like Google Gemini, export it as a PDF. And here's an example. I wrote, I don't like this X. I don't like the bottle. It doesn't make sense on my slide. And what it does is it's like, okay, Stan, here it is without the X, without the bottle, right? And it builds this beautiful slide, right? And so what you'll do is go build your new slide. I can export this, by the way, as a JPEG. And then you just go into Google Slides and you just rebuild it, right? Right here. And so you'll notice the red X is gone. The bottle's gone, right? It's perfect. So, take notes on that because, these slides, they're like 98% of the way there for you. They're usually about 2% off, I would say, right? And you just got to change these little quirks that they've done. So that's the way to basically edit a slide for you. But if you could like and comment, follow along for more, and let me know what you guys want me to talk about tomorrow. All right. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys tomorrow night.